Welcome back to the video series of the Making International Law in Korea. In this video, I'll be explaining to you about incorporation of law of the sea, rights and obligation in domestic law. First, let me touch upon the main ocean and ocean-related laws. The law forming the basis of the Korea's marine fisheries is the Frame Act on Marine Fisheries Development. The purpose of this law is to determine the government basic policy and its directions for the rational management, preservation, development, and the use of the sea and marine fisheries resources. Based on this law, the government establishes and implements a master plan for marine and fisheries development every 10 years. In January 2021, the government announced the third framework plan for marine fisheries development. Under the vision of the age of transition, the sea of life, and the rich future, the basic plan includes 3 goals and 6 strategies to achieve basic policy directions, such as emphasis on life and safety, and digital transformation, and the decarbonization and eco-friendly. As a law on the scope of the Korea's Maritime jurisdiction, there are Territorial Sea and Continuous Zone Act, and the Act on Exclusive Economic, the Maritime Zone, and Continental Shelf. The Marine Science Research Act provides for the investigation of marine science by domestic, foreign, and international organizations. This law defines the marine science research as conducting research, exploration into the seabed, subsoil, superficial waters, and the low atmosphere to study and discover the natural phenomena of the sea. This definition is distinct from the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which has no stipulation on the word. For the laws related to marine environment protection, there is the Marine Environment Management Act, Act on the Conservation and Utilization of the Marine Environment. The Marine Environment Management Act aims to manage sources and generate pollutants such as ships, marine facilities, and marine spaces, and regulate the discharge of the marine pollutants. Under the law, the Ministry of Ocean and Fisheries can designate and manage environment preservation sea areas and specifically manage the sea areas to preserve and manage the marine environment. Act on Conservation and Utilization of the Marine Environment is a law to prescribe matters concerning basic direction setting to conserve and utilize the marine environment. Under this law, the Ministry of the Ocean and Fisheries establishes and implements a comprehensive plan for marine environments every 10 years. The fundamental law on fisheries is the Fisheries Act. This law prescribes the basic fisheries system, which provides for all matters concerning fisheries, such as a licensed fishery, permissive fishery, and license-free fishery. The law on distance water fisheries of Koreans include the Ocean Industrial Development Act. The law provides many measures to prevent the fishers, particularly those operating in the high seas and other country EEZs, from engaging in IUU fishing. IUU means that illegal, unregulated, and unreported. The law requires distance water fisheries operators to install the fishing vessel monitoring system. It requires the government to establish and operate a fishing monitoring center for distance water fisheries. For serious violations, it imposes a penalty of up to 5 years in prison or fines or less than 5 times the value of the fishing, or 500 million to 1 billion won, whichever is higher. Meanwhile, to control the foreigners' fishing activities in South Korea's EEZ, there is an act on the existence of sovereign rights on foreigners' fishing within the exclusive economic zone. The law stipulates fishing permits and penalties for illegal fishing activities for foreigners seeking fishing activities in South Korea's EEZ. The Maritime Safety Act is a primary law on maritime safety. This law aims to establish a safety management system for the safe navigation of vessels and remove all hazard and obstructions to navigation of vessels. Under the Act, the Minister of Ocean and Fisheries shall formulate National Master Plan to promote maritime safety every 5 years. Also, this law stipulates marine traffic control and marine traffic safety control and safety management of vessels and companies and conduct of vessels. In 2018, Korea enacted Act on Marine Spatial Planning and Management to prescribe methods necessary for formulating, implementing of a plan for the sustainable use, development, and conservation of marine space. Under the law, the government must develop a marine spatial plan for internal waters, territorial sea, EEZ, and continental shelf. According to the following classification, the Minister of Ocean and Fisheries and Mayor and Province governors may designate or amend the marine use zones in consideration of the guidelines for formulating management plans, the result of the evaluation of marine special characteristics. For example, fisheries activity protection zones, aggregates and mineral resources development zone, energy development zone, marine tourism zone, environment and ecosystem management zone, research and education conservation zone, and port and navigation zone, and military action zone, and safety management zone. In the meantime, there are some special laws about Dokdo. The main ones of these are the Act on Sustainable Use of Dokdo and a special act on the conservation and ecosystem in island areas around Dokdo. Act on Sustainable Use of Dokdo aims to contribute to the sustainable use of Dokdo and its neighboring waters by prescribing methods necessary for the use, preservation, management, protection of natural ecosystems of Dokdo and its adjacent waters. Under this act, the Minister of Ocean and Fisheries should prepare and finalize a basic plan for the sustainable use of Dokdo every 5 years. The Committee on the Sustainable Use of Dokdo under the Prime Minister's authority was established to deliberate on important matters concerning the sustainable use of Dokdo. The purpose of the Special Act on the conservation of the ecosystem in island areas, including Dokdo, is to provide fundamental matters concerning the conservation of the natural environments of the specified island and their diverse natural ecosystem and geographical and geological features. The Minister of Environment should prepare a basic plan for the conservation of specified the island every 10 years for the conservation of natural ecosystem on specified island and finalize such a plan after consultation with the head of relevant central administrative agencies. When an island is designated as a specific island, there are many restrictions on access and activities.